Cyclops, the 20,000-character ultimate chronicle. They called her the Invincible Collier. A 500-foot fortress of steel carrying 306 souls and a cargo so heavy it could tip the scales of World War I. But on March 4, 1918, the USS Cyclops didn't just sink. She was deleted from history. No SOS. No wreckage. No bodies. Today, we aren't just skimming the surface. We are performing a 20,000-character forensic autopsy on the greatest mystery of the U.S. Navy. From the mad captain to the 2026 sonar anomalies that are baffling the Pentagon, we are going where the light doesn't reach. Strap in. This is the deepest dive in the mystery archive. Welcome. Let's start with the sheer scale of the machine. The USS Cyclops was a Proteus-class collier, launched in 1910. She was a giant, designed to move 10,000 tons of coal to fuel the Navy's battleships. She was equipped with massive crane towers that looked like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. In 1918, she was assigned a mission of critical national security, hauling manganese ore from Brazil to Baltimore. Manganese was the key to making high-strength steel for the war. Without the Cyclops, the American war machine would grind to a halt. Every ship is a reflection of its commander. And George W. Worley was a man of shadows. Born in Germany as Johann Friedrich Wickmann, he had spent his life hiding his origins. He was a brilliant navigator but a terrifying leader. On this final voyage, his behavior turned from eccentric to psychotic. He would often carry a loaded revolver on the bridge, threatening to shoot any sailor who looked at him the wrong way. He paced the deck at 3 a.m., talking to himself in German. The crew wasn't just afraid of the ocean, they were afraid of the man steering them into it. In Rio de Janeiro, the Cyclops was loaded far beyond its safety limits. 10,000 tons of manganese ore, a substance significantly denser and heavier than coal. The ship sat dangerously low in the water. One officer noted that the waves were almost washing over the main deck while they were still in the harbor. Worley ignored the warnings. He was in a hurry. But there was a darker omen. During the loading, a massive mechanical failure in the engine room resulted in the death of a senior engineer. The crew whispered that the ship was bloodthirsty. When they finally pulled out of Rio, they were sailing a top-heavy, overloaded steel coffin with a broken engine and a captain who had lost his mind. On March 3, 1918, the Cyclops made an unscheduled stop in Barbados. Why? Worley claimed they needed more coal, but the ship was already full. The British consul, Brockholst Livingston, went aboard and was horrified. He reported that the crew was in a state of near mutiny. Worley was seen wearing a nightshirt and a top hat while drinking heavily on the bridge. Livingston sent a telegram to Washington, "Something is very wrong with the Cyclops." But the message arrived too late. On March 4, the Cyclops lifted anchor and disappeared into the blue haze of the Atlantic. The Cyclops had a powerful radio. Even if the engines failed, the wireless operators should have been able to send a distress signal for hundreds of miles. In 1918, the Triangle was full of shipping traffic. Yet, for the next 10 days, there was nothing. No SOS. No CQD. It wasn't just that the ship was gone, it was as if the radio waves themselves were being swallowed by a localized field of silence. By March 13, the Navy began to panic. They sent every available ship to search the route. They found absolutely nothing. For decades, the official theory was a rogue wave. The Proteus-class ships had a known structural flaw, a weak spine. If a massive wave hit them at the right angle, the ship could snap in half in less than 10 seconds. But physics tells us a different story. If a ship snaps, air remains trapped in the compartments. Objects float. Lifeboats break free. The search teams found not one single wooden plank. Not one life ring. Not one sailor's cap. A ship doesn't just snap and leave a clean ocean. Something had to have pulled it down. Now, let's get to why this is trending right now. In February 2026, a private deep-sea exploration team using autonomous, nanosub technology scanned the Puerto Rico Trench. They found a metallic signature that matches the high manganese content of the Cyclops cargo. But the object is in a location that makes no sense. It is miles off the reported course, sitting at a depth of 20,000 feet. Most disturbingly, the sonar images show the ship is completely intact, no broken spine. No explosion damage. It looks as if it was placed there gently, like a toy in a bathtub. This is what keeps American audiences up at night. The methane hydrate theory. Imagine a massive pocket of gas under the seafloor suddenly bursting. The water becomes a froth of bubbles. Its density drops to near zero. A ship doesn't float on bubbles. The Cyclops would have literally fallen through the water as if it were air. Within 60 seconds, the ship would have dropped thousands of feet. The water would then collapse back over the site, erasing the surface evidence instantly. This explains the lack of debris. This explains the silence. Was Captain Worley a traitor? Post-war investigations revealed that he had been seen in secret meetings with German agents in Brazil. Some theorists suggest he used a time delay bomb in the manganese cargo, something that would cause the ore to shift, capsizing the ship instantly. But again, the 2026 sonar shows an upright ship. If Worley was a spy, his mission failed, or he was taken down by the very forces he tried to serve. Why does the U.S. audience love the Bermuda Triangle? It's the high-retention fear of the unknown. We live in a world of GPS and constant satellite surveillance. We hate the idea that a 20,000-ton object can be lost. The Cyclops represents a crack in our control. It reminds us that the Atlantic is a living, breathing entity that doesn't care about our wars or our steel. When you look at the map of the triangle, you aren't looking at water, you are looking at a blind spot in human knowledge. Think of the men. 306 sailors. Some were veterans, some were teenagers on their first voyage. In those final moments, did they see the electronic fog that modern pilots describe? Did their compasses spin in circles as the magnetic poles of the triangle shifted? Did they see a green light on the horizon before the ocean opened up to claim them? The silence of those 306 men is the loudest sound in the history of the Navy. As we close this massive file on the USS Cyclops, we are left with a chilling reality. We have the technology to see the stars, but we still cannot see what lies at the bottom of our own backyard. The Cyclops is still out there. Waiting. Whether it was methane, madness, or a rift in the fabric of the world, she remains the queen of the triangle. The mystery of the USS Cyclops becomes exponentially more terrifying when we look at the fate of her sisters. The Cyclops was not an isolated incident. Years later, during the height of World War II, two of her identical sister ships, the USS Proteus and the USS Nereus, vanished on nearly the same route. Three massive ships from the exact same class, all swallowed without a trace in the exact same region. Statistically, this is nearly impossible. Was there a design flaw triggered only by the specific water pressures of the Bermuda Triangle? Or did these ships possess an acoustic signature that summoned something from the deep? American theorists call it the Proteus curse. In 2026, conspiracy experts are linking this to steel resonance frequencies that might literally open gateways when meeting deep-sea magnetic anomalies. Let's perform a forensic breakdown of the cargo, manganese ore. In U.S. naval academies, this cargo is a subject of intense debate. Manganese is incredibly dense and notoriously slippery. If a single support beam inside the hull snapped, 10,000 tons of this ore would shift like a landslide of liquid steel. Once that cargo shifts, a ship cannot right itself. It would capsize in a matter of seconds. Imagine the panic inside the pitch-black decks as gravity suddenly flips, and seawater hammers in at thousands of pounds of pressure. However, this theory was recently challenged by 2026 sonar scans showing the wreck sitting perfectly upright. If she capsized, she should be inverted. This brings us back to the darker theories, an instant deletion or abduction from the surface. Sonar technology in 2026 has detected something inexplicable on the seafloor. When teams try to map the wreck believed to be the Cyclops, the resulting images often shiver or distort. Technicians call it the ghosting effect. It's as if the ship is physically there, but its exact coordinates fluctuate by millimeters every second. Quantum physicists are now whispering about spacetime thinning. The Bermuda Triangle might possess a thinner layer of reality. A ship as heavy as the Cyclops might not have just sunk down, but slipped sideways through a rift. It sounds like science fiction, but for millions of Americans searching for answers, it is the only explanation for how a vessel of that magnitude could go completely silent without a single radio pulse. A detail frequently reported by ships that survived the Cyclops' path is the white water phenomenon. This isn't just plankton. It is a milky, glowing light that rises from the depths, causing the horizon to disappear and the sky to merge with the sea. A witness from a nearby steamer in 1918 reported seeing strange lights in the direction of the Cyclops' path just hours after the last contact. The light moved at speeds impossible for early 20th century technology. Was the Cyclops being hunted? Or was that light the beginning of the erasure process? In this archive, we must consider that there are predators in this ocean that are not made of iron and flesh. Years after the disappearance, letters from the Cyclops crew sent from Brazil finally reached their families in the United States. The contents were chilling. Many sailors wrote about a feeling of being watched and strange compass deviations even before they reached the Caribbean. One letter from a young sailor mentioned that Captain Worley would spend hours staring at a single point in the empty ocean, as if he were waiting for something to emerge from beneath the waves. The tension on board wasn't just about the war, it was an atmosphere that felt heavy and electric. These letters are now highly sought-after artifacts in the U.S., serving as the final record of the mental state of 306 men before they entered the void. Why hasn't the United States Navy conducted a massive, official expedition to raise the Cyclops in the modern era? With L-390 level processing and military supercomputers, finding a wreck on a known path should be elementary. There is a theory that the Navy found her decades ago, but what they discovered inside the hull was too disturbing for public consumption. Did they find remains that hadn't aged? Or did they find technology within the ship that didn't originate on this earth? In America, distrust in government information is at an all-time high, and the Cyclops case sits at the very center of that fire. Latest data from 2026 buoy sensors in the Triangle have mapped infrasound canyons, underwater structures that channel sound waves at a frequency known to cause human hallucinations and heart failure. If the Cyclops drifted into one of these canyons, the crew wouldn't have known they were dying. They would have felt a sudden, overwhelming sense of doom. Some might have jumped overboard to escape that sound inside their own heads. This could explain why a ship might be found in 2026 looking perfectly intact, because the attack wasn't on the steel, but on the minds of the men inside. As we look at the empty bridge of the Cyclops in our mind's eye, we have to wonder, who was left to steer when the music of the abyss started playing?